What is going on, everybody? Today I am joined by Austin Current. He is an ex-pro bodybuilder. He is the author of the best-selling book, The Science of Strength Training, personal trainer, online coach, over 20 years of experience under his belt of coaching and being an athlete himself. But he's here to help us give you beginner lifters, you beautiful people that want to get into strength training, 3 tips on how to be a well-rounded lifter. Let's start with number 1.
Number 1, avoiding too much too soon. We get eager.
Yes.
We get excited to get into this. And I think, throughout my years of lifting, throughout my years of personal training, coaching, whether that be in person, online, avoiding that too much too soon is one of the most essential things you can do in essentially easing your way into this lifting thing. Have an on-ramp period, have a building period.
Yeah.
Right? We're building this thing up over time. We're not, if we're eventually wanting to get to, maybe training 4, 5, 6 plus days per week, if you're super into it, that's all possible for you. But we don't start there, right?
Yeah.
Maybe starting with 2 days, 3 days, and starting with a very low volume and only maybe a few exercises per lift. Not going, just sending it to the moon first week.
Totally. All right, let's go, Austin. Let's go into tip number 2 for beginner lifters. What do you got for them?
Exercise technique is a fundamental skill of lifting weights. It is the thing that we're doing in here, right? So we want to get good at it. I always talk about it's the dribbling to basketball.
Okay.
If you don't hold that fundamental of dribbling on the court, you become a liability on the court.
Yeah.
No one's going to pass you the ball, no one's going to want you in the game, and no one's going to want you to play,
yes.
right? And again, the game isn't very fun if you can't do the fundamentals.
Yeah.
So lifting becomes a lot more fun, becomes a lot more adventurous, and everything comes off and expands off of that fundamental of exercise technique. And that isn't to say that we need to have this paralysis if we can't, it's not perfect, it's not perfect, right? Because we're not searching for perfect, we're searching for good enough. But as we're getting into this, we need to build what that good enough is for us, get comfortable in these motions that we're doing, and again, know the rules, learn the rules, build the foundations so later we can start to break them.
Got it. So are you saying like form-wise, technique and form-based? Like break that down a little bit for me.
Yeah, so form, the form that you're lifting with, getting, what's your range of motion? How should you be setting up? What happens when you start to fatigue?
Okay.
Are you able to build through that fatigue? Are you able to keep your technique good through that fatigue? Right, so we see a lot of injuries happen usually around that fatigue set point for people, right? So that fatigue, we hit that fatigue threshold, we start to compensate, we start to move in a weird way, and our technique kind of goes by the wayside, and that's how injuries start to happen. Again, we get those aches and pains, and again, kind of to that first point of too much too soon, we over-index our ability to actually recover from what we're doing. And so I think building that fundamental skill is very, very important.
All right, so fundamentals are key, y'all. Fundamentals are key. All right, let's move on to tip number 3 for our beginner lifters. Austin, what do we got?
Avoid paralysis by analysis. And this is the thing where I think in any lifter's journey when they're first kind of starting out, we can overthink things too much, right? So we start to get into, well, is that good enough? It's not perfect. What about this? Should I progress this? Should I do this? I only have time for this. What am I missing? And so I think we can have this paralysis, this sort of, we kind of feel like we're in quicksand and we can't move. And we end up not doing, sometimes we end up not doing anything because it's like, well, I can't decide. So mess around, have fun, find out, learn what's good for you, learn what you enjoy, learn what you don't enjoy. Don't think you have to do certain things, right? If you don't like back squatting, don't back squat. If you don't like deadlifting, don't deadlift.
I think those are important points to make right there. Like you don't have to do those movements if they don't work for you.
There's no exact movement you have to do. There's no specific movements you have to be doing in here. It's finding what you enjoy, finding what's productive for you, what's effective for your goals, and exploring what that is and learning how to progress that for you over time, right? And I think that's what kind of builds you through that beginner stage. And then as you get more advanced, you learn how to refine what that is. You learn how to maybe add to that or take away from it, right? And when in doubt, to kind of round all this out, when in doubt, simplify and work a bit harder, right? So if you find yourself, you're just adding layer after layer and your workouts are well, I like this exercise and that exercise. My workout's 2 hours plus now. I don't have time for that, and then you get this, that paralysis by analysis, and you're like, well, which one should I drop out? I don't know. Go back to the basics, refine back to the basics, work harder within those basics, and feel really good within what you enjoy, essentially.
Let's talk about this, because in today's day and age, like with social media, the internet, there's so much information out there that people have thrown at them or that they're seeing. What would your recommendation be for these beginners, people trying to get into strength training, resistance training? Should they follow a program? How do they know what to do to start? Because there's a lot of information, like you're saying. How do I get out of that paralysis and figure out I'm gonna do this? This is what you should start with.
Yeah, I think getting into the core patterns is really kind of core movement patterns. So you push things, you pull things, you squat things, you hinge with. You deadlift things, right? So we kind of have those core movement patterns of pushing, pulling, hinging, squatting. That includes, everything from lunging to deadlifting to overhead pressing to bench pressing to
vertical
pulling, horizontal pulling. Just break it down and try to do one or two things from each across the week, and go from there. So if in any given day, let's say you're first getting started, you're working out 2 to 3 times a week. I'd recommend just going each time you get in there, try to hit everything with one lift that feels good. So that could look like, okay, I have some type of pressing, right? That could be, maybe that's an incline dumbbell press, or maybe it's a flat barbell press, or whatever that is. Then we have maybe a seated shoulder press. So we have our horizontal and our vertical pressing. Great. Knock that out. Then we have a seated row and then a pull down. So we have our horizontal row and vertical row pull down taken care of. We do some type of squat or lunge, that's our squatting pattern. We do some type of deadlift, or maybe an RDL, that's our hinging pattern, right? So just pick one thing, find something that feels good. Also, machines are great, cables are great. Now everything has to be done with free weights or barbells. One is not better than the other. They're just tools to be used to further that thing that you're actually striving for. And if that's just to get stronger, to get better, to get more muscle, whatever that is for you, improving your overall general health, your ability to function daily life. All things are tools, and don't diminish what those tools can be for you just because you read something on the internet. They're all great.
Totally. I think those are great points. I think, having those foundational movement patterns in your program, if you hit them all, then I think it's a pretty well-rounded program. And then, establishing the foundational basics of technique, and then you're pretty set there for starting off.
Ride that out. Have fun.
All right, guys, there you go. Those are those 3 tips for our beginner lifters out there to make you a more well-rounded lifter. If you want to follow Austin, where can they find you online, Austin?
Instagram's a good place, Austin Current. Usually if you type in the name of the bearded guy that comes up. Talk about exercise in every way, shape, and form, but mainly strength training is my thing. And then YouTube, I do a lot of exercise tutorials and showing you new variations and stuff like that on there. And so if you're ever searching for, what are these basic lifts? How do I do a squat? How do I do a bench press? How do I do X, Y, and Z? That's all on my YouTube channel. So just search my name and that should come up.
And if you're looking for you are a beginner and you want some of that guidance, somebody to maybe program for you, keep you accountable, definitely reach out to Austin. That is what he does. He also has this book, The Science of Strength Training. Got a lot of good anatomy in there. It tells you different lifts to do for specific, movement patterns, nutrition, training programs, all that good stuff. So I'll drop down a link in the description if you want to pick up his book. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Boom.